Hi, first grade families. I'm going to talk with you a little bit about our upcoming weekly reading assignment that's going to start coming home each week. Before I get started, I want to remind you that this is an optional assignment. So this is not something that you have to do every night on top of your math homework. However, I do want to explain the purpose behind it and why it's so important. So your child is going to begin to bring home a passage that looks very similar to the passage in the right-hand corner of my screen. And I want to explain a little bit about why we send home a weekly reading, why it looks the way it does, so that you can understand how best to help your child with their reading at home. One of the goals that we have for your child in first grade is for them to develop reading fluency. And that means they're no longer reading word by word. They are reading nice and smooth phrases. Right now, as a beginning first grader, end of the year kindergartner, many children are still trying to master their high frequency words. And you've gotten an update recently about how many words your child knows and what they need to work on at home. One of the reasons that we need them to know these words is if you take a look at this passage here on the right, there's a lot of high frequency words in this passage. Is, a, and, in, all kinds of different words that are in this story. And your child may be able to read them in isolation, but once they're mixed up into a story or a short reading passage, they can often get confused. If you find that your child is taking longer than 4 seconds to read a word, that usually means they haven't developed reading fluency of their high frequency words. So when they go to read a story like this story, when they get to the high frequency words that take them a couple seconds to read, they're going to start chopping up their reading, and we call that robot reading, and it's not nice and smooth. And so the importance of those high frequency words is essential so that when they go to open up a book, when they go to open up a short passage like this, they already have the reading confidence of knowing those high frequency words. And so we send this story home and very similar stories just like this, and they're all connected to our Foundations program, which is our phonics and spelling program. We have different concepts that we teach throughout each unit of Foundations. And you will see on the next page, we have a phonics continuum that we use here at Stony Brook and all throughout all the elementary schools. And you'll be getting this at parent-teacher conferences, or you can get it at any time if you need another copy. Right now, some of the words look a little small right now, but if you had this in front of you, you would see that there is a continuum to show you exactly what concepts your child is going to be learning at different points throughout the school year. So you will see in September that we were really working on letter formation and putting things in ABC order. In October, we're working on consonant, vowel, consonant words and learning how to blend sounds together and segment sounds. And we're beginning to put words into sentences. And then in October and November, we're starting to learn parts of words like digraphs and glued sounds and continuing to put them into sentences. And so you can see the progression. And so if you ever look back and say, I'm not sure if my child's spelling what they're supposed to be spelling or writing in the right way, this is a great tool to help you. And this is something I talk about at conferences. And so it's just a really good guide. And the reason I share this with you is because our reading passages connect with exactly what we're learning in Foundations. And so right now in Foundations, we are learning how to tap out CVC words, which is a consonant, vowel, and a consonant. So for example, in this story, the word kid. When I teach kids how to tap out sounds, if you ever hear them say that at home, we put our hand up and we go id, kid. And we always emphasize scooping the word together because although we're separating the sounds, our goal is to put all the sounds together. And so if you look through this story, we have words like pal, cab, got, all kinds of words that are CVC words. And so this is developmentally appropriate for your child to be reading in the month of October, for example. And so throughout the year, you will start to see these stories change a little bit. You'll see the sentences get longer. You'll see some of the word parts get a little bit more challenging. It's because that's what we're learning in Foundations. And so I make this video just to kind of help explain the purpose behind it and why it's so valuable to do this with your child at home. Now, here's the trick. At the bottom of the story, you can see 5 stars. Every time your child reads the passage, they get to color in a star. Now, they can only color in 1 star per day. So the way that I like to do it is on Mondays, we read this story together and we go through. Let me just skip over and show you. We go through with our yellow crayon or a highlighter and we find all of the words that we have learned in Fundations, and we call these trick words. Pretty much, they're very much the same as high frequency words. So if you hear your child say a trick word, it's pretty much the same as a high frequency word, but sometimes Fundations has a few extra words that we throw in there that aren't on our list. And all of these words are words that often make sounds that don't follow the alphabetic language. So for example, if we look at the word is, when I try to tap out is, I'm making the I sound, but when I get to the S, I'm making a Z sound. And we don't spell is I-Z, we spell it I-S. So that's why we call it a trick word, because it's making a different sound than we're used to it making. So that to say, the kids go through the story, they highlight all of these trick words that we've been learning, and then we get to color the very first star. So as a class, we read it the first day on Monday. Then the story gets to go home. That night, your child will read the story to you, and they get to color the second star. And then on Tuesday, they get to color the third star. On Wednesday, the fourth star, and on Thursday, the fifth star. So by the end of the week, when we get to Friday, they will have all 5 stars colored in. So we color in 2 stars on the first day because we read it in class together, and then they go home and read it to you. Now, if your child brings in their story on Friday with all 5 stars colored in, they get a reading reward. So if they bring back their weekly reading on Friday with all their stars colored in, they get a piece of candy from my bowl. Some kids are motivated by candy. Some kids aren't. Some families like to say, actually, this is a required activity and you have to do this. And you're the boss, so you get to decide what your kids do and what they don't do in regards to an optional assignment. But my point behind all of this is to explain the value in helping your child with their reading at home in small ways like this. And throughout the week, you're going to see your child's reading confidence grow. And by the end of the week, they're going to be reading nice and smooth reading, and they're going to feel a lot more confident about how they read on Monday than the way they read on Friday. And so if we take a look back at our story, this is what the story would look like. And I always tell families that they can keep this in their orange Stony Brook folder all week long. So if you don't want to accidentally forget it on Friday to bring it in, if you don't want to keep it on your refrigerator and add to it each night, that's okay. Do what works for you. If you want to keep it on the return to school side of your child's folder so that each day they can proudly say, look, Mrs. Clancy, I colored in a star last night, that is totally fine with me. It's no problem at all. So I hope this answers some questions that you might have about why we do our weekly reading, what's the purpose and the value behind it. Our job is to work together as a team to help your child succeed with their reading. And this, I think, is the best way possible to help build their reading confidence, to help them practice their high frequency words, and to build a great reading confidence between you and your child. Let me know if you have any questions along the way, and we will be getting started with this pretty soon. Thanks so much.